2024 has been an incredible year for aquascaping with me. I've got a lot of new stuff planned with a lot of new stuff coming your way. The only problem with that, in order to bring in the new, I have to get rid of the old. So before I get rid of the old, I want to talk about each tank in my gallery and give a Q1 2024 review. But just like always, if you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your support. Okay, so first things first, 2024 has been absolutely crazy for me, and that's a good thing, and it's all because of you. Back in October of 2023, I set a goal and went on a mission to make aquascaping a full-time gig in my career. And because of folks like you who are watching my videos and supporting me through various links and other things like that, I'm now able to do it part-time. I was able to leave my toxic old job, get a part-time job working from home, and now I do aquascaping part-time and work another part-time job. So I'm halfway there, and it's only the end of Q1. So massive thank you so much for all your support. It really, truly means the world. All right, so where to start with the gallery tour? You know what? Let's start with the oldest tank in the gallery, which would be this 45U Iwagumi right here. Let's dive right in. All right, so this tank is the oldest in my gallery. It's been the longest lasting so far. I think it's about 1.5 years old. I set it up in December of 2022, I believe. And I've loved it. It's been an absolute fan favorite of all my guests that come over. The dwarf hairgrass and Liliopsis brazilis carpet is just so stunning. And the moss weeping over the Siriu stone, it's just very impactful. And how can you not talk about that mother stone too? That thing is awesome. But it is the oldest, which means it's gonna be the first to go. So this could be the last time you see it. I don't know if it will be, but it could be. So you'll have to wait and see. Typically, I like to keep my tanks about 4 to 6 months before I rescape them. But in this case, it's just such a fan favorite, and my heart lies with Iwagumi style as my favorite. So it was just very difficult to tear down, and I've just enjoyed keeping it up. We've got a ton of blue Rilly shrimp in there right now, and things are going great. There's algae in there that is difficult to kick. It's hair algae, but I think with the rescape looming on the horizon, I'm not gonna worry too much about it and just kind of let nature do its thing. Now, if you've been following me for about a month or so, you'll know that a while back I chipped this tank while attaching the light to it. I've got the Chihiros C2 white light on this, and if you know about that light, it's a mounting system with screws on the back, so it pins itself against the glass. And I guess I screwed it on a little too tight because I attached it, and then 5 minutes later I heard a cracking sound. I ran over the tank thinking water was going to start pouring out, but I chipped the top of it. Now, I talked to the folks over at Boost Plant who partner with UNS, the makers of this tank, and they advised that because it wasn't a vertical crack and just on the top, it really didn't put the tank in any danger of breaking. I've been keeping my eye on it very closely though, just in case, and I lowered the water level from what I typically would put in there just to be safe. I run the Chihiro C2 on 60% power on this setup for 8 hours a day, and there is CO2 injection in here as well. Now, the hardscape in here is very simple because it's a classic Iwagumi. So there's only Black Mountain Siriu stone in here. There's, well, let's see, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 stones in here, so it's an odd amount of stones. Just a true classic Iwagumi with Black Mountain Siriu stone. Looking at this tank and realizing that it probably won't be set up for very much longer, it really got me to sit back and reflect a little bit. And, you know, looking back on when I built it, realistically, I'll probably build another Iwagumi in this setup just because I love the Iwagumi style and it's the only Iwagumi I have in my gallery. Reflecting back though, it got me thinking about, I feel like I've improved a lot this year in my aquascaping skills. And you know, I had goals for how I wanted to improve, and I think in the first quarter I've improved a lot in some things, and I've really done terrible in other things. For example, at the beginning of the year, I really thought this year was gonna be my year of expansion, where I had like 15, maybe 20 tanks, or you know, a lot of tanks lying around the house. But I quickly realized that 7 tanks is my absolute limit. And if I go over 7 tanks, then I feel like I don't enjoy them anymore. And instead of valuing the tanks as something cool and enjoyable, I see them as a chore or like work. And so I quickly realized that I would never go over 7 tanks until, you know, maybe I have a bigger space. But you know, finding your limit is key. And I think I did that really well, really quickly, was finding my limit and sticking to that. And by sticking to that number, I was able to really just enjoy my tanks instead of being stressed out about getting all the maintenance done. And I really enjoy that. I think I did really well of figuring that out and taking that goal and realizing that that may have been a little too lofty for me, and I needed to kind of pull back and establish how many tanks I could handle at the maximum, and I think I did that really well. Okay, but moving on. Let's go to the next tank, which is right next to the Iwagumi, and that's the South America inspired tank. This is by no means a South American biotope. It's inspired by a biotope. There's a lot of things in this tank that are solely out of South America, but there's a lot of things that aren't. For instance, there's cherry shrimp in there, and cherry shrimp are not from South America, but they're remaining from the old scape. And if you've ever rescaped a tank before and had a ridiculous amount of shrimp in there, you'll know that it's impossible to get all the shrimp, and eventually you'll just have another whole colony spring up later down the road with the new scape. That's exactly what happened in this tank. So, you know, you can't get every cherry shrimp out of a 20-gallon. It's just physically impossible to do. If you've done it, I commend you. Let me know down in the comments below if you have. Now, with this tank came something that I really failed at this year, and that was that I really let the maintenance go on this tank. I kind of bragged that I hadn't maintained it for a month, and that was true, but then I didn't maintain it for another month afterwards, and then another month after that, and it got to the point where I took a close, hard look into the tank, and everything was so overgrown that there wasn't really enough space for the fish to swim, and there was a ton of algae everywhere. Things weren't looking healthy. They were just kind of hanging on by a thread. And so I really feel that I failed at establishing a maintenance schedule and sticking to it. I maintained my other tanks perfectly and on the dot every week, and did consistent water changes, kept the algae down, trimmed, and that tank I just kind of forgot about. And I really failed at making sure all my tanks were healthy, and I feel sad because this one houses most of my fish and I just let it go. And so I really feel that I failed in that aspect, but it's a new quarter. There's still plenty of year left, and I'm gonna be better at it, trust me. Moving on though, we're coming to my favorite tank in the entire gallery. You know it well because I show it all the time, and that's my forest scape in the UNS Dual 60. I absolutely adore this tank, and if you ask me, in my personal opinion, I think it's the best aquascaping work that I've ever done. This tank is the centerpiece of conversation with guests that come over and see my aquariums. It's the biggest one in my gallery. It's also the most expensive by all means, and I just love it. I spend most of my time in maintenance on that tank just to make sure that it's absolutely pristine and perfect every day. I've got a ton of plants in this tank, and it just crossed 3 months in age since being planted. So it's really kind of in its prime right now. That 3 to 6 month range is the prime of any aquascape, and it's just thriving right now. There's not a lot of algae. The water is crystal clear. Plants are growing and healthy. The hardscape looks impactful just the way I wanted it to, and I'm just absolutely loving it. Something cool that happened to me this quarter and when I set this tank up was I did my first ever dark start. Now, if you know me, I'm a massive fan of the dry start method. I absolutely love the dry start method. I firmly believe in it and recommend it for everybody. But in this case, I dark started the tank. And there's a whole video I've got that kind of explains the dark start. I'll link it below or up above. And I'd never done a dark start before. I was pretty hesitant about it. I wasn't sure if it would work. And I claimed that I wasn't a fan. But I did the dark start, it was successful, it was awesome, and now I recommend it to everybody that I talk to. I don't know, just reflecting back, it makes me realize that coming into the year, I didn't really have a very broad view of how things should be done in the hobby or how things could be done in the hobby. And just in the last 4 months, it's been really cool and awesome to see how my views have changed on quite a few things. Like, I'm a fan of the dark start. I still love the dry start, but I'm a massive fan of the dark start now. And it's just really cool to see how my views have changed. Now, if you're subscribed to my channel and you've watched the last couple of videos of mine, you'll know that I'm super into shrimp right now. And I've kind of put fish keeping on the back burner. I still keep fish, but I haven't bought new fish in quite a while, honestly, probably a couple months. I've always loved keeping fish, and I definitely see myself continuing to keep fish, but lately I've just been focusing on the shrimp and I've just been really enjoying that. I keep rabbit trailing here, but this is a Q1 review, so it's a fun little thing just for me to share with you guys. Looking inside the stand of this Dual 60, I've got what I call my boost box. And this is just a UNS 25S that I've got saran wrap over, and I've just got a ton of bucephalandras. I don't even know what they are, to be honest. There's a lot of random ones. It's just a various assortment that I'm growing in this super high humidity environment. I've got the Aqua Illuminations Blade freshwater light on this thing. I run it on 25 to 50% power for 6 to 7 hours a day. And then I mist the bucephalandras daily with a mix of water and APT Dew, which is like a fertilizer spray from 2 Hour Aquarius for immersed plants. It works really well, and if you use the code SIMPLY15 through the link in the description, you get 15% off your order, so you should check that out. So that's it for the big tank and the big stand. So moving on, right next to it, I've got my second 45U. And this is actually my beta tank. I've got my beta Zuko in here, and this is just like a high-tech, stem plant heavy, I don't even know what you want to call it, nature style aquarium, maybe mixed with a Dutch style. I don't know. Drop it in the comments what you think this style of aquarium is. I'm just calling it a nature style betascape. But anyway, there is a ton of Rotala in here. I've also got some Juncus repens and then an HC Cuba carpet with a little beach in the center and a cave for Zuko to hide in. The cave is great because it allows him to get out of the heavy flow when I trim the plants down. The flow is really powerful, so it allows him to kind of hide in there and not have to worry about high flow. One cool thing about Zuko is when I got him, he was actually white and red. He's been with me about 3 years, and since then he's actually turned blue, black, red, and white, all the colors. It's super cool to see. So that's it for this tank. I promise you we are getting close to the end, so just hang on. There's only a couple more tanks to cover and then we'll be done. The next tank is my UNS 5S shallow tank, and I've got this thing hooked up to the UNS Blitz canister filter. A while back I had done a review video on the Blitz, and I have to say since then I really like it. I think it performs really well, it provides good flow, and it's virtually invisible because of how small it is. This tank was my first ever attempt at a shallow with immersed growth coming out of it, and although it's not quite there just yet, I think it's getting close to looking really cool. I already think it looks cool right now, but I think it's about to look even better. And the reason I say that is because the dwarf hairgrass carpet is completely filled in now. It looks super full and lush and healthy. And then the Bacopa monnieri is sticking up in the corner, and the Ludwigia super red is also sticking up in the corner. In the middle, I've got some Pogostemon erectus, and this has taken a little bit longer to grow than I had hoped, but it's super close to cracking the surface of the water. And if you know that plant well, you know that it's got some beautiful flowers when grown immersed. So I think this is gonna be super cool looking in about a month or so. I'll keep you guys updated on how it's progressing, but I'm really looking forward to how this tank looks in a little bit and how it looks now. I think it looks really cool. This tank is also 0 CO2. So to be able to achieve a dwarf hairgrass carpet with no CO2, like I've mentioned in previous videos, it is possible. It just takes a lot of patience and a lot of dedication to grow it short and compact. So it's always fun to be able to achieve something like that. Obviously, CO2 leads better growth and quicker growth for that full carpet, but with dwarf hairgrass, you can do it without CO2. It's just a matter of patience, and I think this tank is a true testament to that. All right, and lastly, we have the smallest tank in my gallery, and that is my UNS 16S Shallow Iwagumi. This tank has been a fun challenge for me because it's my first time ever trying a carpet with UG, Utricularia graminifolia, and UG is pretty commonly known as a tough plant to grow. As you can see, the carpet is just kind of so-so. There's some sections that have done really well and are doing really well, and then there's other sections that just straight up died and melted to nothingness. And so lately I've been keeping this tank just open with no water in it and spraying it down about 2 to 3 times a day with some water and APT dew from 2 Hour Aquarius. And the sections that are doing good are looking great. But I'm gonna have to make some changes here soon. I think I'm gonna add some plants in the back and just adjust it a little bit since it's kind of looking a little sad right now. But I'm confident that it's gonna bounce back, and I'm confident that when it does bounce back, it'll look amazing. At the moment, I don't know if I'm gonna make a video on the revamp of that. I don't know if it's actually worthy of a video or not. We'll see. I feel like that's one of those things that I'm just gonna decide when the time comes and how it looks after I fix it up a little bit. So we'll see. There may be a video, there may not be. Just stay tuned. Now there's actually one more tank that I recently worked on, but it's not here. And that's because it's a client build, and it's a UNS 50C where I put spiderwood and Blue Mountain Cereus Stone together and really got to test my skills with this giant tank. It's the biggest tank I've ever scaped before, and it was a really fun challenge to do. So thanks to people like you who have watched my videos and supported me, I'm on pace to start doing what I love to do for a career. And I couldn't have done it without you. So I'm so thankful for you and everything that you have done to support me. It means the world to me. And I just hope that I can continue giving back and continue inspiring and helping you learn more tips and tricks and all that. I'm just so thankful for everything that you have allowed me to do. And that's just been a super cool thing this quarter that I'm just very blessed, and I want you to know thank you so much. All right, so that's it for this video. You've now seen my gallery in one go, and you've also gotten a little bit of a life update. A lot of stuff has happened in Q1 of this year, and I cannot wait to keep progressing and keep growing. And I cannot wait to see what the rest of the year has in store. I've got a ton of new stuff coming your way. I'm gonna continue posting videos as often as I can. Right now it's every Saturday. So if you're not subscribed, please go ahead and do so. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.